Now, independent presidential candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has finally revealed his running mate. There's been a lot of speculation about this one, but it's Nicole Shanahan, a 38-year-old entrepreneur from Oakland, a Democrat donor whose track record is not going to appeal to many Republicans, I would argue, Ami. Kennedy is 70 and he said he wanted someone who was younger, who could speak to the millennials and Gen Z generations. She's got a strong connection in the tech industry. But I've got to say, I think the Trump camp would be much happier with this pick than the Biden camp.
Yeah, look, RFK, the argument is that he helps, his running helps Trump more than Biden. It's not exactly true. If you look at the real battleground states, I mean, there's really three major battleground states. If you look at Michigan, he helps Trump in Michigan. He hurts him in Pennsylvania. So it's kind of six of this, half dozen the other. Ultimately, when it comes down to the battleground states. But I just find I find this whole thing ironic. The Democratic Party, right? The people trying to preserve democracy, right? The fighters for democracy have been trying to kick RFK off the ballot, just like they're trying to kick Donald Trump off the ballot, because in their mind, well, once we get rid of all of our opponents, then we can preserve democracy. I forgot who we're talking about, Biden or Putin at this point. That's been the MO for the Democrats for this entire time, that they're going to use lawfare to try to win this election as opposed to trying to win it in the ballot box.
Now, MSNBC has sacked Rona McDaniel from her role as a contributor just days after she was hired. It comes after an almighty meltdown from their online talent, including their chief disinformation peddlers, the propagandists like Rachel Maddow, Joy Reid and Nicole Wallace. But this was across the board, this tantrum. And I don't know why think they've got this massive victory. I mean, McDaniel was pretty much sacked as the RNC chair. She's not a favourite amongst the Republicans. So I don't think it's the scalp that they think it is.
Yeah, look, I'm not the biggest fan of Rona McDaniel, right? I mean, she was a terrible head of the RNC. She lost essentially every election other than 2016, and that wasn't her. That was Trump who really won it. She was so obsequious to President Trump that she dropped the name Romney. Not her biggest fan, but I love these moments, Rita. They are so clarifying on where the media stands on these issues, right? Look, MSNBC employs somebody who's responsible for a modern day Jewish pogrom, which led to the death of a Jew. The same guy, Al Sharpton, was responsible for a riot in New York that burned down buildings. This guy has his own show on MSNBC, Rita, okay? Jen Psaki was the literal mouthpiece for the Obama administration. Guess what? She has her own show. There are tons of people from the current administration that are employed by MSNBC. But God forbid they have somebody on their air who actually supports Trump. That's the irony of this thing, but I love it because it really reveals the truth of MSNBC and the mainstream media. I'm glad we have these moments so we can expose them for what they are.
Now, the White House has expressed disappointment after Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu cancelled a visit by a top Israeli delegation to Washington after the US chose to abstain on a United Nations Security Council resolution calling for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza. Relations between the two countries, Ami, they're not what they once were.
No, and look, I think I'm a truth teller. Wherever the truth takes me, the data takes me is kind of the position I will take. Look, Joe Biden, well, certainly as compared to President Obama, who was a terrible president when it came to Israel, who in the waning days of administration basically threw Israel under the bus and then backed the bus up over Israel. Compared to that, Joe Biden, when it came to the first few months of the war that Israel was waging against Hamas butchers, was pretty good, right? In deed and in word, he was supportive of Israel. And I have no real complaints when it came to how he defended Israel for those first few months. But man, how things have turned. Would you want to be Netanyahu coming to visit the Joe Biden administration after they abstain on a resolution that was so disgusting, that called for a unilateral ceasefire without the hostages, condemned Israel, did not condemn Hamas, but they couldn't vote against it. They couldn't veto that. They couldn't stomach a veto of that resolution. It was disgusting. You know you're wrong when you're on the same side as Hamas, Iran, and Hezbollah were cheering the U.S. decision to abstain. You know you made a wrong decision, a wrong turn somewhere when those guys are your cheering squad, right? Look, this has been a major issue, and in fact, what's happened is Hamas has understood that now they have a new ally. You know, obviously, I don't think that Biden's looking to be their ally, but they're playing the Biden administration. The Hamas has now gone back to their original negotiating position because of this lack of a veto, because of this abstention. They're now saying that we want to keep control of Gaza, we want a complete withdrawal of Israeli forces, and we want all Hamas terrorists released in exchange for the hostages. They have gone back to their original position. We have lost ground because of the weakness of this administration and its now unwillingness to support Israel. And all for what? Is Biden really anti-Israel? No. What he's doing it for crass political purposes, for a few votes in Michigan. He decided to throw his ally and stomp on him.
Ami Horowitz, thank you for your time this evening.
Always a pleasure.